I go into a profound acceptance that one day it's most likely that she'll be here on the planet and I won't be. So I'm spending the rest of my life building a fortress based on her interests and the person that she is. We are all likely aware that the diagnosis of autism in children is increasing. This gives us reason for concern, and rightfully so. But something that's often overlooked is that children with autism grow up and become adults with autism, adults who are no less deserving of our concern. We need to appreciate their challenges so that we can develop solutions that are meaningful for all persons with autism.
For a long time now, people have talked about children with autism, and there's been considerable emphasis on early intervention. But what it forgets is that these children are all going to live to be 80, 90 years old. They're going to be spending 60 years of their lives as adults. And we haven't planned for them to be older children, teenagers, or adults.
At one end of the spectrum are people who may not communicate using speech. They may struggle with daily living and processing sensory information. They may also have other conditions, such as mental retardation or a seizure disorder. This is severe autism.
You know, early on, when a little child's having a tantrum, people wonder, like, what happened? What'd that parent do? Or why is that kid out of control? If I go out with Tariq now at 28 and he grabs somebody's popcorn, and by the way, this does happen, it's embarrassing. People can understand that there's something wrong, but it doesn't make it comfortable.
I was 4 years old in 1957.
And that's when you went into the hospital for the first time?
For the first time. I was admitted to the little children's unit of the main WPIC.
And you stayed for how long?
5 years and 2 months.
And at the end of that time, were you having fewer temper tantrums?
Yes. Then they caught up to me again when I was 15.
On the other end, we have people with autism and above average IQ scores, but they still have autism.
Like in my case, I've had a lot of successes in my life. I've done really well in college. I had a 3.96 GPA in undergrad. I'm in grad school now. I've advocated for other people out there on the spectrum. I've had some success in the last few years since I've been in college. With making friendships. But I also have a lot of challenges that people may not see with fitting in with the sensory system, kind of the way my senses kind of overloading me kind of at times, with anxiety and depression and low self-esteem.
The spectrum is a lifespan issue. Even though you may have the diagnosis early on in life, it will not leave.
Well, I'm autistic and I was diagnosed at 2.5 at an early stage of development. It's interesting. Ups and downs, typical, you know. It's hard being me when I'm angry, but it's easy when I really straighten up.
For younger learners with autism, the system basically is pretty responsive. You are guaranteed an education. You're guaranteed a place to go. You have an individualized education program. Unfortunately, at the end of your 21st year, there is no similar legislation to support you into your adulthood. So oftentimes, families hit that graduation age, whether it's 17 or 18 for that child who's graduating on grade level out of high school, or the end of their 21st year for someone who has more intensive needs. And they discover that they've sort of come to a chasm where all those services that were deemed essential and were essential now no longer exist. And now, Johnny, who was going to school at least 5 days a week, 249 days a year, is now sitting home that same amount of time because the supports and services aren't there.
The social environment of teenagers is very complex. And so these children get more and more lost, more ostracized, more picked on.
But I didn't realize at the time in high school that there are a lot of cliques. There are the jocks, the brains.
A lot of people were mostly mean to me in school, and maybe I just thought they were mean, I don't know.
I know sometimes some people like to get on my case. Get on my goat, that is. I was bullied and teased and picked on and rejected for, a lot of my life. I mean, basically about 18, 19 years of my life. I'm 27 right now.
They still need social skills instruction. If somebody on the spectrum could learn social skills just by being exposed to social skills, they wouldn't be on the spectrum. That's definitional.
And so I had a lot of those challenges, and a lot of people say, look at me, talk to me, and they make certain assumptions that, I'm this, super person who just kind of, solves kind of everything out there.
They think just because I'm high function autistic that I know how to do everything, and I know everything, and they think that there's nothing wrong with me. They look at me, just because they look at me, they see if I know how to take buses or go on trips or anything, that they think I know how to do everything in the world, but that's not necessarily true.
We shouldn't oversimplify the needs of individuals with autism. Their needs are very complex and differ from person to person.
The important thing I had to learn was hard work didn't cure this. Hard work does a lot of good things, and you could solve a lot of problems. I think the biggest thing, the most profound thing my son taught me was hard work doesn't work all the time. As hard as I would work, he was still autistic. And I couldn't cure him. I couldn't even make a dent in the autism. I could learn to understand him. I could learn to enjoy him at times. I could love him as much as ever, but I couldn't change his fundamental condition. And that was hard to accept.
The biggest challenge of having an adult is your lifestyle is like the lifestyles of younger families, both in financial resource and energy. When you have a young child, that child takes a lot of time and energy. And that's fine when you're young and you have it. But when you're in your 50s and you're still picking clothes in the morning and teaching them basics like how to tell time and managing them, trying to navigate their day for them every minute, it's not any different than having a 2-year-old around.
Well, I think the new wave of autism is beginning to hit adult programming and the community. We're seeing it now mostly in transition services, or at the end of their school years coming into the community, requiring more services and more planning.
Truth be told, I don't know yet. I don't know what jobs I have. I don't really have any preference at this point. I'll have to wait and see what happens as I get older. For all we know, something may spark to mind, though at this point I seriously doubt it. Not to say it won't happen, though.
So this bulk of kids is on the brink of entering services, or the need for services, and the system really is not set up to handle those kids. And a lot of us in the field are very concerned about that.
I'm all kinds of people inside. I just don't even know where to find them. I'm working on it.
And what do you do for them?
For them is that I have like doing some mail it and stuff. We just folding the papers and putting them in the mail.
Do you help a lot in the office?
Yes, and doing some organizing, and I make some copies.
Didn't you train a couple people too? You helped a couple other people learn what you were doing?
Yeah, sometimes I help them. I help them sometimes, but sometimes I do it by myself. I work in an office with Miss Matrice now.